He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned.
It started with a blunt insult.
Career-wise, he became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
Aimed at a man who was already dead. U.S. President Donald Trump doubled down on a social media attack against filmmaker Rob Reiner after Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found dead in their home. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump was asked whether he stood by his post. He said yes. Trump called Reiner a tortured and struggling director.
Please.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
a number of Republicans have denounced your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
The response online was swift and explosive. Social media users reshared Trump's comments with outrage. One widely circulated post said, "Donald Trump's message about Rob and Michelle Reiner's death is a monstrosity." Another called Trump disturbed, sick, narcissistic, and evil.
At all, he was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. Career-wise, he became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
Then came the police update. Los Angeles police announced on Monday that the couple's 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, is in custody on suspicion of killing his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner.
Today at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division. At that location, they found two deceased adults, a male and a female. Through the night, working with the coroner's office, they were able to identify them definitively as Rob and Michelle Reiner. We have our robbery homicide division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder and is being held on $4 million bail.
As the backlash spread, presenter and broadcaster James King offered a sharply different focus. In his video bite, King said Reiner would be remembered most for comedy, calling him a brilliant comedy performer who mastered deadpan delivery, timing, and rhythm.
Yeah, I think Rob Reiner's influence can't be underestimated. You just have to look, first of all, his run of films in the 80s and 90s as a director, which included This Is Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, and others, Stand By Me, I could go on. But almost all of those films are deemed classics, some of the best in their respective genre. So you had him as a great director of films, but also he was an actor. I think he appeared in The Bear fairly recently, but had an acting career in the 70s, came from a showbiz family, and directed lots of TV as well. So, you know, yes, he was a successful movie director, but also he had worked in so many other areas of the entertainment industry, had a production company called Castle Rock that made loads of movies, continues to make lots of movies. So I think that's part of the reason why we're getting all these wonderful tributes to him, because he knew so many people, he worked in so many areas, and he had so much respect. We almost took him for granted, actually. I think because he wasn't a director of Martin Scorsese, ilk, Steven Spielberg, the big names, the kind of director whose work he studied, books are written about them. He wasn't that kind of director. He probably just made it look a bit too easy. here's another Rob Reiner movie. It's another great one. It's in a different genre to the style before. He's just a really talented, varied director, and that takes hard work. But actually, to us in the audience, he made it look easy. And so I think there was an element of just almost expecting another great Rob Reiner movie, and rather than making a big fuss about it in the way that we do with some other directors. No, the switch in genres that we saw him pull off so brilliantly, probably late 80s into the early 90s. So going from When Harry Met Sally, which really breathed new life into the romantic comedy genre in the 80s, and it's still really the blueprint for great romantic comedy. So he did that, and then did Misery, another Stephen King adaptation. Again, a classic, one of the great thrillers with an Oscar-winning performance from Kathy Bates. So to switch like that, I think that wrong-footed a lot of people, actually, because we were expecting Rob Reiner, because of his comedy background, just to keep churning out the comedies. But then switching to Misery, then A Few Good Men, Aaron Sorkin wrote that, a classic courtroom thriller, gutsy, political. So again, another stylistic shift. So by that point, it really was like, well, he seems to be able to do any kind of genre and do it in a really mainstream way. These were big hit films, but also do it in a classy way. They were films that got plaudits, that got awards as well. Yeah, a brilliant comedy performer. He didn't just direct Spinal Tap, of course, he featured in those movies as Marty DeBurgi, sending up Martin Scorsese. He then went on to act under Martin Scorsese in the film The Wolf of Wall Street. So although I don't think Scorsese was initially happy with that send up, obviously they did make up in the end. But a brilliant comedy performer, playing it, deadpan, playing it straight, knew the beats, knew the rhythm of comedy, working really well on When Harry Met Sally with someone like Billy Crystal. Both of them just really knowing how to get the best out of a line, get the best out of a laugh. So yeah, although this is a man who excelled in so many different genres, I think ultimately, if we had to pin down one, it would be for his work in the comedy field.